This is a tutorial showing how to use UVLayout to create UVs for a human head. So here's our mesh loaded into UVLayout. So what we've got here is this head's got some sort of tricky things that I'll show you how to deal with, sort of inturned eyelids, concavities in the hole, and if we zoom in on the mouth here, it's got an internal sort of section of the mouth there. Right, so one of the first things I do is, you can see here, if start zooming in, things get quite distorted because of the perspective. So under display here, there's an orthographic toggle. So I'll usually switch that on. Also the O hotkey toggles between orthographic and perspective. Right, so now we're sort of set up how we want. So step number one is, in most of these things, is to set up the symmetry. So if I do operations on one side, they are mirrored to the other side, saves a lot of time. So symmetry find, pick any edge there on the mirror line, hit space. So now we've got the symmetry set up. Now I can see here these yellow polygons here. That indicates polygons that aren't symmetrical. So you can see here underneath that, underneath the nostrils there's been some sort of difference in triangulation, and so that's created an area where there's no symmetry. So I'll show you how to handle that. Okay, so what I usually do is to cut out these tricky areas and deal with them later, and sort of just do the main majority of the head first, and then sort of handle those tricky areas separately. So that's just a matter of cutting them out. So particularly because the mouth is closed, in this case it's good to have an open area for the initial flattening. So I'll cut out quite a large section of that mouth there, just picking the edge loops there. So I can move that out of the way, just click on edge extend, we'll unselect those. So that's given a nice sort of open area now for the flattening, and we can deal with the mouth later on. Here I'll do the same with the nostrils. Any sort of concave area like this, it's best to just cut them out initially and deal with them later on. So it's just move those out of the way. Same with the eyes here, they're sort of turning inwards. So again, I'll just cut those out. So you can see here, because I set up that symmetry here, it's detaching the sorry, I'll move that out of the way. It's detaching the left and right eyes at the same time. And finally, in this case, I'll just do the sort of a hole there for the ear hole. So let's cut these out here. And I'll just move the head over there so I can sort of put those over there. So those are the tricky bits, which we'll do in part 2 of this video. So this part 1 is mainly just this initial main body of the head. So what I'll do then is, save it. That's always a good thing. And now I'll split this up the back. So just do cut there. And typically in a head, you can sort of cut up the back and stop somewhere about the forehead here. You might have hair over the top, so the seam under the hair there is hidden. So here I'll just use backspace to unselect those edges. And so now we've got that main seam going up the back, and I'll cut it into behind the ears here. And again, I don't want it going all that way into the ear, so I'll just use backspace to maybe take it back that far. And through experience, I've learnt that it can be good to split it up just a bit here. So, but again, I don't want it all the way through there, so I'll just, this is just a measure. I probably will adjust these later on, these splits, but that's just initially. So there I've got my splits to split open the back of the head. So the next step is Shift S. We'll split those open. Now sometimes I've seen it'll split up to the top and not split across, and so you just keep on hitting Shift S if you see that until it eventually splits all the tagged edges open. So there's the main body of the head with the splits up the back. So I'll drop that down into drop it down into UV space, leaving our tricky areas for later. So here's the head dropped into UV space, and so the next step, because it's a closed shape, like it's got the front and the back there, we need to use the bloating tool, which pulls everything out, sort of stretches it. Anyway, so here we go. So that just creates a sort of encompassing circle and just stretches everything out like a trampoline or something, just stretches it all out to the boundary. So you let that run for a few seconds and then hit space, and that releases the boundary and things pull into their natural shape. So we'll just stop it at that point, get it a bit more vertical, and continue to run it. Oops, so let's go run the optimize here. So you can see here the ears are pulling in. Now the mouth is collapsing. Now that can happen. The reason for that is there's quite a large amount of geometry here that's wanting to push the head in, because it's blue, it's trying to make itself green, so it's pushing in, and that can collapse around the mouth there. So in this case what I'll do is I can just pull this out, and I'll pin the bottom edge there straight, and that'll help hold the mouth open. So let's just hit this key here, let's run that through, and I'll also, you can see here, just run that a little bit longer. You can see here everything's sort of getting fairly close now, and there's this problem here at the back. So if I go and look at the texture view here, let's just make our grids a bit bigger. That's that problem there. We got a bit of stretching there on the back of the neck, but I want to make that back edge straight anyway, so I've got the UVs going horizontal across there, and so I'll straighten up that back edge and the bottom edge. So that'll help hold the mouth open and give a sort of better UVs across the back of the neck. So that's what I'll do now, is just pull this point down here, set an anchor there, which means that when I move these other points, they'll snap vertically, and this one here will snap horizontally to that anchor point. So I'll set my S key here, sets up the straightening sort of endpoints, and I'll do another one there for that. Right, so let's just run the optimize. I'll just hit optimize here. I'll straighten this edge up. So S, just to pin those points. Right. So you can see now that we've pinned this bottom edge, the mouth isn't collapsing anymore. This is sort of holding this open. And that's just optimized there. That's not pinned. Let's go F here. Probably pull this one over a bit. Oops. Let's pin that point. Right, let's run the optimize. So this blue means there's going to be a bit of stretching under the chin and around the neck, but that's not as bad as sort of problems in the mouth area here. So by moving pinning this bottom line and stretching that out, it's helping sort of pull the UVs out a bit to give the nose and the chin mouth area a bit more space, which is a sort of more critical area in this case. So there we've got our UVs there. There's a few little spots here that I'll clean up later on when I sort of weld in the remainder of the eyes. There's the ears, not looking too bad. So let's have a look at that in 3D view. So we've got nice sort of, let's give it a bit more, nice sort of straight level UVs across the back of the neck there. They're sort of straight through the neck. You can see what the blue means in the neck there. We've got a bit of texture compression, but that's not as bad as a lot of stretching on the nose and chin, which would happen if we didn't do that. So there we go. There's the UVs for the majority of the head, and those look fairly even. Bit of stretching on the nose, like I said, and chin there, but not too bad. And so the next step would be to take those problem areas that we left in the edit view there and deal with these and weld them back into the remainder of this surface, which is looking about right. So that'll be part 2, the handling of the mouth, nostril, eyes and ear holes.